The world is in big trouble and headed for a crash far worse than 2008. You can sense it, you can feel it, but it's not for the reasons you suspect. The whole world is basically bankrupt. There's no easy solution, and governments solved nothing in 2008. Politicians made the problems worse. Here are the most important facts delivered in the shortest amount of time possible. Governments around the world are $100 trillion in debt. $100,000 billion of debt. It's a very scary number, almost as scary as the hundreds of trillions of dollars more debt required to honour all those promises politicians are making to pay for things such as Social Security and Medicare for the next few decades. There literally isn't enough money or wealth in existence to enable politicians to deliver on all their bullshit promises. There isn't even enough to repay the debts already incurred. When I raise this concern, I'm usually met with two key points of resistance. Number one, we can just tax the rich. And number two, the money in debt is all just numbers in computers, so why don't we delete it? Number one, right now you're thinking, oh, we just need to tax the rich more. This doesn't work for many reasons, but for one, the rich have billions, not trillions. Nowhere near enough money to cover the debts. Even if they had trillions, taxing the rich still doesn't work. Take Donald Trump, for example. Worth a few billion. A lot of his wealth is in real estate. So, if you're government or a voter slave and you want to spend Donald Trump's wealth to pay pensioners or to build a hospital, you'll first have to sell the billions of dollars in real estate assets, convert it to cash, and then spend it on what you want. But if you're taxing all the rich people, who's going to buy the billions in real estate? The casinos and New York skyscrapers are only worth whatever the market can pay for them. And if you're taxing all the billionaires, then no one has billions in funds to buy the real estate. It'll crash in price and be worth millions, not billions. You'll destroy most of the wealth in the process. Number two, deleting the money, deleting the debt. Now you're thinking, oh, we can just erase the debt. It's all just imaginary numbers in computers, right? True, but money is a way of counting or measuring wealth, just as centimeters on a ruler measure length. And debt is a way of measuring how much future wealth governments have already spent and squandered. Real stuff. Saying we can delete the money in debt is like saying you can solve the problem of body fat and being overweight by deleting the kilograms on the bathroom scale. Further to that, if governments have borrowed money, that means someone is owed that money in the future. If you delete government debt, then the person on the other side doesn't get paid. In many cases, guess who that is? You. Where do you think your retirement funds are invested? Where do you think the government gets a slice of the money to pay pensions, Medicare and so forth? If you've got a superannuation account, you own government debt directly or indirectly. If the debt is deleted, so too is your retirement plan, not to mention the dangerous flow-on effects of a government deleting its debt, the destruction of the currency, the collapse of the financial and real estate markets, a longer topic for another video. What are the current consequences? There are so many problems occurring right now in society that are a consequence of government. You just need to connect the dots because government is not getting the blame it deserves. Here's a few. Because governments around the world are so heavily in debt, many of them cannot afford to make the interest payments on the debt, let alone pay back the principal. Unlike your personal mortgage or car loan, governments have the ability to reduce the rate of interest they pay on their debt because they set and control interest rates. That's why the Reserve Bank of Australia has interest rates set at an all-time record low level of 1.5%. That's half the 3% bottom they were set at following the 2008 crisis. They're cooperating with other governments and central banks who also have interest rates at all-time record low levels, like in Europe, for example, where interest rates are negative. Governments have reduced their interest payments through massive manipulation of global markets in order to delay their bankruptcies. This causes catastrophic distortions and bubbles in the global economy, such as in the real estate market, which we see with crazy prices of houses all over the country. If interest rates are lower, that makes borrowing money more attractive and easier, and if the government-controlled money system allows for the creation of debt out of thin air and computers, this means people can borrow seemingly infinite amounts of money at artificially low interest rates to overpay for houses. This has been going on for decades now, to the point where the Australian property market is at inflated bubble levels, along with the real estate markets in many other nations. It does the same to the stock market and many other asset classes. Governments have even openly admitted that they want to, quote, boost asset prices and create the quote wealth effect by lowering interest rates and printing trillions of dollars out of thin air, otherwise known as quantitative easing or QE, openly admitting to distorting everything. This is where inflation comes from. It's not an accident, it's a deliberate policy of government. In fact, the Reserve Bank of Australia, government bank, has a mandate to keep inflation between 2 to 3% per year. In other words, if the cost of your electricity bill, food and petrol is only going up by 1.5% per year, the government will intentionally take steps to make sure your cost of living goes up faster than that. How are we going to solve these problems? We probably can't. We have a democracy. How do you get elected? Promise to give more free stuff to the voters than the other guy. The world has already been given $100 trillion more free stuff than we can actually afford. Who's going to vote in someone like me who acknowledges that government is the problem and that we need to get rid of government, privatize everything and start acknowledging the bankruptcy? People who speak the truth and fail to hand out free stuff don't get elected. These are only the briefest of highlights. The journey starts with education. What is money? How is it created and controlled? How does government debt work? Why do governments raise and lower interest rates? You weren't taught about it in school for a reason. If Coca-Cola owned the schools, you'd never learn about how bad sugar is. When government owns the schools or controls the curriculum, you'll never learn about how bad government is. Mike Maloney produced an excellent free TV series called Hidden Secrets of Money, which you can watch on YouTube anytime. This is an excellent starting point. Begin your journey towards freedom and understanding now. Government needs us. We don't need government. I used to be